Just as a little heads up, I only got about 3 hours of sleep last night, and I've been awake for about 16 going on 17 hours, so if I seem a little slow or off at times, that's why. But I'm here, and the movie I'm going to talk about now is one of the sillier films I think I'm going to talk about. National Lampoon's Van Wilder. Yeah. This is the 2-disc Van Gone Wilder edition, the unrated version. Cardboard slipcover. And I don't know if you can tell from here, but yeah, as you can see, sexy girl t-shirt. The slipcase is designed to have the breasts bulging out. Watch. Obviously a lot of thought went into making this design. And if you look carefully, you can see a bulldog beneath her tits. And as you can see, there's a big unrated sign blocking the dog's asshole and balls. In the movie, there's this bulldog that belongs to the main character, Van Wilder. And a big running joke is that the dog has really big balls. Like, oversized and huge, just dangling between his legs. Like, I don't know if there probably are, but I've never seen a dog with balls that big. Anyway, this is one of the sillier movies I think I've talked about so far. I don't count The Battle of Love's Return. That movie is fucking horrible. Dreadful. And, yeah, it's a gross-out teen, college comedy. It'll mainly appeal to the teenage crowd. If you've seen the video, my Blade trilogy video, and I'm gonna admit it, I'm not particularly proud of how my part on Blade Trinity came out, but what I said about Ryan Reynolds is true. I think he's very dreamy, he's very sexy, he appeals to women, gay guys, bi guys, and I think he has done well in some comedies, and one of them I mentioned was Van Wilder. And, yeah, maybe it goes against the way I've talked, but it may not match up to the way I've presented my tastes in movies, but I do kind of like this movie. It's not my favorite, but if I need a stupid laugh, I'll just maybe pop it in. I only watch it maybe once a year. I have several movies, and it's a gross-out comedy, and I'm not particularly fond of gross-out comedies. Gross-out humor can be funny, but a lot of the time, I usually find it to be just, gross. It actually makes me feel gaggy and sick in the stomach. There was a time a few years ago where certain gross-out scenes in certain gross-out comedies would make me very close to throwing up. I'm able to handle it better, but yeah, and I think, and this is something, I'll get to what the movie is about in a sec, but here's something I want to say. With gross-out humor, it's hard to say when it works. Sometimes it can work, because it's I can't believe they're doing that. A stupid character is doing something that they don't realize is gross, naiveness. I think when gross-out humor, when I don't like it, it's when it's movies where people pull gross pranks on each other. Because sometimes, a lot of the time, the pranks come off as really cruel and undeserving and just unpleasant. But I think when gross out humor can really work is when it happens to a complete asshole, a real horrible person, a real cunt, because you just love seeing them get their fucking comeuppance. And there are some real fucking asshole cunt characters in this movie who have some gross stuff happen to them. And they deserve it. Now, about Van Wilder, the movie itself. I don't know about the National Lampoon part. I mean, I don't know if National Lampoon really holds any weight anymore. Like it did maybe back when Animal House first came out. But over the years, just about anything has put the National Lampoon name on it. There was this hour-long spring break movie that wasn't even really a movie. It was just a reality TV type shit that you might see on MTV. And it was somehow released as a movie. And it had National Lampoon on it. The plot is about the title character, Van Wilder, played by Ryan Reynolds. And Van is a kind of like he's like a likable guy who everybody at the college he goes to, Coolidge, loves, Coolidge College. And everybody loves Van. Like, he is the cool guy that you'd want to hang out with. Like, he's the kind of cool guy who's not too cool. Like, he's not above everybody else, and he doesn't look down on anyone beneath them. The idea that is, the movie tries to make Van out to be this guy who everybody would want to hang out with. And I don't know if I personally, throughout the film, even though he's pretty nice to most people, he has a smart-ass attitude and he can be a bit judgmental at times. But usually it's only to the people above him. But if the character's a little uneven. Like, sometimes he keeps that open-minded persona that would make anybody kind of feel like he could be a friend to them. But then at other times he becomes a real jerk-ass. If you could put up with some teasing, I think maybe you could have a good time being his friend. But yeah, it's just my opinion. And Van, the movie starts out on what is revealed to be his 7th year at college. And why is it his 7th year? He loves college, loves the parties, loves the chicks, just loves the people. And he never wants to leave. He considers it his home. And his father finds out that he's been pretty much just wasting the past better part of a decade. And so he refuses to pay the tuition anymore to keep him going. And Van, wanting to stay, tries to raise the money on his own to stay there. And one of Van's few, job-ish talents is that he can really organize a bitchin' party. So that's how he pays his tuition. He organizes keggers or whatever you call college parties these days. And everybody at the school loves him. And the other main character is a up-and-coming reporter named Gwen Pearson, played by Tara Reid. And a lot of people hate Tara Reid, and I've seen her in a few things, and yeah, she can be pretty fucking horrible. I've seen parts of Sharknado, but I think if she ever did one good role, did a real good job at a role, I think Van Wilder would be it. Her character, Gwen, is, well, Van Wilder, the movie, it is not a real original movie. It's kind of going the Animal House route. It's kind of going through some of the motions at times. And it has some of the cliches you'd see in college movies, like the uptight, bitchy woman character who warms up to the main protagonist and grows to like him despite their differences, like their different personalities, their different goals, but yeah, it's that kind of story. But even though it's kind of going through the motions and some of the parts are real contrived that you'd be used to seeing, and I do think this is a fun movie. Just don't expect it to be the greatest comedy you've ever seen. To some it might be, but to me it's not the greatest. And I do have some fun while I watch it. And some parts are actually pretty well done, just it's in the middle of all the gross out, all the college teen comedy humor that was popular at the time, 2002. But there are some good parts, particularly towards the end, that I found to be kind of touching. Yeah, I really thought they were touching about Van thinking about his future for the first time. And back to the character Gwen. I thought Tara Reid did a good job. Like, she is kind of a character we've seen before, but she does a good job of portraying her. There's always, like, this movie, as I said, has cliches. It has the cliche part of the love interest having a misunderstanding with the protagonist. And when that part happens, that's really fucking unbearable. Like, oh boy, character just dropped. But other than that, she pretty much worked, and I thought Tara Reid was pretty good in this. And the point of her character, the up-and-coming reporter, is that her boss, like, she wants to do stories about important life shit and events and stuff, and her boss, who runs the school paper, wants her to do a story on Van Wilder, and throughout the film, she's trying to get an interview with him, trying to figure out what makes him tick, and he just wants to get in her pants, I guess. Yeah, like I said, Van's kind of an uneven character. Like, he seems like a nice guy and helps out a lot of people. Like, throughout the film, he actually helps out a bunch of people who struggle. But at the same time, he's kind of a sleazy womanizer. Uneven, but Ryan Reynolds is a good actor in this. And through the character Gwen, I guess that's when the film begins to get some drama, I guess, of Van questioning what he's gonna do with his life, and those scenes in the movie I thought were pretty well done actually, but they were it's kind of odd when you see a teen sex comedy with a lot of gross out humor and a bunch of stupid lowbrow juvenile humor. And then you try to put in these scenes. Like, this happens in pretty much every teen comedy that I've ever seen. You got a character who questions his life and the way he is. Like, maybe, like, he's just cruising through the girls and living it up through the party. But then he begins to suddenly have questions of who he is on morals. And it's hard for a movie... It's hard for a lot of people, especially me, to take these life message scenes seriously when there are scenes of people drinking semen. I'll get to that later. And maybe you're not supposed to take these movies seriously, but then why have those dramatic scenes? It's questioning. I mean, it's just, you're not sure what to think. Like, I came here for a dumb sex comedy to have some dumb enjoyable moments, and then you have this weird questioning your life stuff, and it's hard to figure out exactly where this film's going. Before I get to the rest of the cast, I just want to mention these things. Like, there's a lot of people in this movie, and especially some cameos, and The cameos are actually kind of interesting, and, well, some of them are cameos, some of them are people before they were famous. There's a scene where Van talks down a kid from killing himself. Kind of an odd scene. You're not sure if you're supposed to laugh or you don't know what it's going for, but the suicidal freshman is Chris Owen, who most people will know as the Shermanator from American Pie. And Van Wilder's father, who was played by Tim Matheson, who was the otter from Animal House. Yeah, that's a pretty cool touch. When he first goes to confront Van about spending 7 years at college, he goes to what is a college slumber party where the guys dress up in lingerie and the girls dress up in. Actually, I don't remember. I'm pretty sure the girls. I'm not sure if the girls dressed up in guys' underwear, or I guess it was a drag slumber party. And he says to this guy in a pink teddy, "Where can I find Van Wilder?" And the guy goes, "In the Guinness Book of World Records for the raddest fucking dude alive!" The guy who says that, raddest fucking dude alive, is Aaron Paul. And then there's this nerdy character who's part of what is supposed to be the nerd fraternity at the college, who after Van gets their fraternity a kick-ass party where they all get laid, and he says he would cash his Israel bank account, I guess. Guess he's Jewish. And his friend goes, "Can you really put a price on dignity?" And he says, "Can you put a price on Poo Nanny?" That guy who says Poo Nanny is Simon Helberg. Maybe, I have a hard time pronouncing certain names. But anyway, it's the guy who plays Howard on The Big Bang Theory. And surprisingly, I like him better here than on that fucking show. There's also this character named Sally, who, watch the film and you'll see her. She's played by Sophia Bush. And for anyone who's old enough, if anyone old enough to remember this shit is watching this shit, Eric Estrada has a cameo as himself. There's a scene early in the film where Van is auditioning people to be his assistant. Yeah, like he needs an assistant to help him out with his college lifestyle, and Eric Estrada playing himself auditions. And it's one of those, like, is that who I think it is? Kind of cameos. So yeah, just wanted to mention that. And the rest of the supporting cast are Cal Penn, Kumar of Harold and Kumar, as Taj, who is Van's assistant, he gets the job. And Taj is I think he's maybe the most likable character in the movie. Like, he's the stereotypical foreign nerd character who follows the main character around, and the main character is nice to him and tries to help him get better with girls. And Taj is interesting, like, he's not the usual goofy foreigner type nerd character. He's not really that too much of a stereotype. Like, yeah, he has the funny accent, and the opening scene with him where he's introduced, it could be, to those who are butthurt politically correct libtards, they might have issue with it. I just think, try getting away with that today. But other than that, he's just goofy dork. Lovable goofy dork. And, like, he's not as much of an insufferable bitch as Raj on The Big Bang Theory, but he's nowhere near like Long Duck Dong from 16 Candles. But yeah, Cal Penn, he has several hilarious scenes. Particularly the scene where he's trying to give a back massage to this hot girl, and he sprays all this oil on her back, and when she's like, "Take me," he just runs in to jump on her, and he hits her back and just slides off the bed. And what happens after that, I will not spoil. And Van, his other friend in the movie, is a guy named Hutch, played by Tech Holmes. He doesn't do as much as Raj. Like, he's like the token black friend who's supportive, and he's okay. Just doesn't leave much of an impact. But he does have maybe 2 or 3 funny bits. He's kind of like, what little character he has is that he has an ego, and he's also a stoner. Van asks, "What is wrong with the youth of today?" And Hutch goes, while taking a hit off a bong, "Internet, dude. Fries their brains." And there's a scene where he's doing bicep curls, and he's got very skinny arms. Like, there's a tiny, tiny bit of muscle there, but yeah, not much. And he has, like, his hair is dyed, and basically, he's like a 5'10" lean Dennis Rodman, kind of. Well, he looks like a 5'10" lean Dennis Rodman. He doesn't act as nuts as Dennis Rodman. And of course, the film's main antagonist. And this character, if you have seen Animal House and you thought the snob frat boys in that movie were fucking insufferable, you have nothing on this cunt. This guy is named Richard Bagg. B-A-G-G. He's supposed to be the president of this fraternity that, I can't remember the name exactly, but I know the initials pretty much mean dick. Yeah. And he's the president of his fraternity, and this movie has that thing you see in a lot of college comedies where you got the bad fraternity that does the brutal hazings of the pledges. And scenes like this just make, even though it's a comedy, scenes like this just make you think, why the fuck would you want to join a fraternity? Because some of these hazing scenes, like, even though it's like they're comedies, and I've read about real hazings that fraternities have done in the past, and some of the stuff, like, you think, these are the, like, 1, 2, 3 steps to becoming a sadist. Like, they don't sound like initiations into joining a college fraternity. They sound like initiations into joining a cult of sadists. I will admit, this character, Richard Bagg... Okay, I'm just gonna call him Richard. This character, Richard, he was a villain you not only loved to hate, but you hated him to the core. He just does... He's like one of those Weasley, stuck-up snobs. And when I watch this character, I think, like, with all the... Like, he acts very immature, and he has this immature laugh. This real obnoxious laugh, and he keeps acting very immature and whiny, like a brat who has their toy taken away. And I just think, like, he looks down on anybody who's not worthy of his fraternity or doesn't work to be like a lawyer or a doctor. And my thought is, like, and then there's, like, the scenes of him, like, the way he acts, I'm thinking, why would he expect anyone to feel inferior to him? because he acts so... Yeah, like, Van Wilder, the character Van, he may be a wild guy, but he keeps it together and acts more respectful than this fucking douchebag. And the hazing scenes with the pledges, like, he has them buried in the grass in a way, like up to their legs, and he plays polo with their by hitting the balls into their balls. And I get why that would be funny, slapstick, haha. But when I see that, I'm thinking, wow, this guy is fucking sick. Like, I'm serious. And a scene that really made me hate this character was when they're playing foosball, and there's this pledge standing by them with an eye patch who looks pretty nervous, and Richard, rolling his eyes like he thinks the guy's being a pussy, grabs the ball, and we see that it's a glass eyeball, and that belongs to this kid who wants to join their fraternity, and he puts it back in, and then Richard's like, "Not like he can see out of it anyway, loser." I get why some people might think that jerk-ass attitude is funny, but I didn't. I really hated this fucking... jerk. I've said every other curse word I can think of to describe this guy, so he's just a horrible human being. But he does have a few, not many, but a few funny lines. When he tries to get into one of Van's parties, he says about the doorman, "This vaginal discharge won't let us partake in the party." And Ryan Reynolds is like, graphic. I thought that was funny. Yeah, it is graphic. And there's a scene where, also, another plot element is that you've seen a lot of times is that the character Richard is also dating the character Gwen. And once again, yeah, I mean, Gwen and Van have opposite personalities, but she and the character Richard are just, like, their personalities don't really match either. I mean, sure, Van's too wild and irresponsible at times, but at least he's not a condescending, weaselly cock. I'm running out of names to describe this asshole. Yeah, I'm going too deep into this. It is a stupid comedy, but I'm giving my opinions. I don't usually like the mean-spirited type gross-out comedies, but yeah, and I don't consider that a great film, but I consider it enjoyable. Like, it's good to pop in once in a while if you need like I said, if I could get a chuckle. I can get a few chuckles out of this. I'll get back to the character Richard in a little bit, but I want to mention these characters. Paul Gleason, the principal from The Breakfast Club. Has a role that is kind of his role from The Breakfast Club, but a bit nicer version. Like Paul Gleason, other than Die Hard and Trading Places, Paul Gleason, he pretty much played the same principal you see in The Breakfast Club, and for anyone who doesn't know, I just want to mention this, he passed away in 2006, and he did a great job in The Breakfast Club. And Van Wilder, he plays an asshole, but unlike The Breakfast Club, where he was just a depressed, miserable asshole, in Van Wilder, he has a bit more reason. We find out that he was Van's professor for his first few years at the Coolidge College, and he's just disappointed at the way Van has gone with his life, and he really wants to see him make the full potential he could make. So he rides his case throughout the years, just acting like a dick, but he has a reason. But he has good intentions at heart. I'm going to mention these two characters as best I can quickly. There's a campus cop who's a supporting character throughout the film, played by Curtis Armstrong, who most will remember as Booger from Revenge of the Nerds. And he does his thing. Where, just playing a real, constipatingly mad, doofus. And he has a few funny bits, like, he has a part, he's like a real, he's a real bad, cop, if you could describe him as anything. And he has a funny scene where he's eating in his car. He drives a golf cart as a cop car, where he's eating in his car, and then all of a sudden, someone crashes into him, and first seems like food's okay, and then the airbag goes off, and he's covered in a milky coffee, and yeah. And there's this character named Jeannie, who is like, I'm not sure what she is. She's just like this female mascot for the fraternity that the character Richard Bagg is in. And it's obvious she has a crush on him. And she's overly perky and obsessed, and she doesn't talk like a normal human being. But then again, a lot of this film is not normal. But she's an insufferable bitch character, and yeah, I guess a big problem I have with some movies is that, well, the male characters will suffer a lot, especially in the gross-out comedies. The female characters usually won't go through much. Yeah, just... I feel like just because these characters have pussies doesn't mean they're not entitled to suffer like everybody else. And that's about it for the cast. There's one more thing to say. It's that the film was directed by Walt Becker, who hasn't directed a lot of movies. Like, his most well-known film after Van Wilder is the motorcycle road trip comedy Wild Hogs. And yeah, Wild Hogs and Van Wilder are kind of similar. Both very dumb, have they're both silly, and they have some extremely dumb moments. But they're enjoyable, and the kind of movies you could pop in at any, lazy weekend where you have nothing going on, or you can't find a movie to watch that you haven't been watching lately. Wild Hogs is not as extreme because it's PG-13, but they're kind of similar, and they're enjoyable at times. Okay, here is the scene that I have really, really wanted to talk about. Like, this is the reason I'm really doing this review. The character Richard, thinking that Van and Gwen are getting too close, it has Van invited to Gwen's parents' house when making him think that Gwen wants him to meet her parents, and setting out to be embarrassed. And the plan backfires when Van gets the uptight snobs to really cut loose and play some drinking games. And when Gwen goes to Van saying she's sorry for what happened, he says, well, guys do some immature things sometimes. And then this leads to what is kind of one of the a scene that just hits me in the head like a fucking sledge. Van gets payback, like the college payback, gross out thing. And what does he do? You know the drill. Van takes his bulldog on the cover and with his roommates he masturbates his dog. Like, okay, Van has one of his buddies, he has it. Van and his roommates take what I think could be eclairs or some kind of pastries. It's not clear what they are. And they put on surgical scrubs and mask gloves. It's odd. And they remove the cream from these pastries. And Van has his roommate. He gets his roommate to masturbate his pet dog, and they masturbate him hard enough that they fill up every 10 of these pastries with dog semen. And then they send it to Richard and his fraternity, and the fraternity just gorges on these mutt cum filled eclairs, and after they dig all through them, we see pictures on the bottom showing what the filling is, and then they all vomit. And I guess this could be the closest to the bitch character Jeannie getting her comeuppance. One of the guys who just consumed a pastry full of dog semen barfs on her. And I said that I think gross out humor can work best when it happens to a complete asshole who deserves it, and you love seeing him get what he deserves. And this is it, and even though it's gross, I did enjoy watching that scene because I like seeing the character Richard get what was coming to him. But the vomiting part, yeah, that is real nasty. I mean, it's good to see the bitch get what she deserves, but I did think it was a good comeuppance. Nasty, gross, and outrageous, but I think it worked there. But here's what I have issue with. Van Wilder has already been a pretty uneven character enough throughout this fucking movie. Well, this is the scene that really makes me not sure what to think of him. Van has his dog masturbated and fills up 10 to a dozen eclairs with his pet semen and puts it in a basket, and he even says appearance is everything. I guess what bugs me is, after seeing that scene, Van Wilder's kind of a fucked up evil genius. I mean, that is a very cold, calculated plan. I mean, from the way they portray it, this plan looks like putting together these eclairs and jerking the dog. And it's crazier that he got his best friend to just whack it off on the. it's crazier that he got people to help him with this. But what bugs me is this plan obviously took hours to do, and I'm not even sure, like, the delivery, I'm not sure that even happened, like, the delivery to the fraternity, I'm not even sure that happens on the same day that they make these pastries, and I guess the point is, this scene I find to be kind of disturbing. Like, I'm serious, this scene kind of disturbs me a little, because I'm thinking, this is not a simple college revenge prank. This is something that a disturbed person would come up with, that they would put a lot of thought and they would use their brain juices, they would use their brain at its highest thinking level. This scene just made me feel like I can't express enough how much this scene, like, I'm not taking this film that seriously, but that scene just did it for me. I was like, what the fuck? I mean, I just can't say it enough. And I spoke with a cousin of mine who's around my age. He thinks it seems very out of character. I mean, Van gets out of character a lot, in my opinion, from what they're going for. But this scene this takes, wow, I mean, I heard people, like, shitting in a box and then mailing it, or, like, pissing on or farting on someone's food, but this, I just can't get over the fact that this makes Van Wilder, the character Van Wilder, seem like a evil, twisted, sociopath, who would probably go on to do worse things. Like I said, the fraternity hazings seem like the building up for a sadist cult. This seems like the work, yeah, of a very disturbed and possibly dangerous person. You may think I'm taking this too seriously, but I'm trying to express how this scene this scene disturbs me, and I just had to mention it. This is not the revenge prank of a college kid. This is the cold, calculated mastermind of a very sick man. Well, I don't know what else I can say other than this movie is gross, dumb, cliched, but enjoyable, and it's obvious there is some heart to it. And Ryan Reynolds, he does have talent. He is pretty sexy. Like, there are scenes where Tara Reid, she sees him naked and we don't see his dick, but we see her reaction, and it just makes you ooh when you see her face. And Tara Reid, she's okay in this, and this was the Animal House of the previous decade, and yeah, it's a generational thing, and I like Animal House a lot more than this movie, but if I have a day where I have nothing better to do, maybe I'll pop it in. It's hard to find a smart teen comedy that can be gross but still smart, but there are some. This is okay, but if I want to watch a comedy of this ilk, I think I'll stick with Superbad. So, what's my verdict? I would give it 6.5 out of 10. And I don't think that's too low, because it will be more enjoyable, I think, than you would think. Like, if you can get past the gross fucking shit. But I do kind of like this. I don't love it, but I like it just enough. One last thought. I said, although I thought it was disturbing, like Van, what he did to get back at Richard, I did like seeing him suffer. There is, at the very end, a scene where Gwen, realizing finally what a complete cunt he is, during his final exams, she puts a diarrhea, inducing medicine in his drink. And like Van, it seemed out of character for her, but it led to a very enjoyable, well-deserved humiliation in a way. I just wonder, these actors who do these gross out scenes of their characters getting it, being humiliated, I wonder, this guy who plays Richard, Daniel Cosgrove, he has 4 kids, and I wonder, what's it going to be like when his kids see these scenes? I guess that's all I gotta say. I'm out.